y'all, welcome back. This week I made 2 delicious and cozy fall soups and some tasty birria tacos. So let's head on into the kitchen and make some delicious meals. Alright guys, this week's video is going to be pretty short. I've got 2 delicious cozy fall soups and these really good birria tacos. We're going to start out with the tacos. So I've got a chuck roast here that I've just got diced up into 2-inch by 4-inch cubes. And I'm going to season these with a spice mixture of salt, pepper, cumin, smoked paprika, garlic powder. And I'm just going to let this marinate for about 30 minutes. Okay, so the meat is sitting over to the side marinating. It's going to be marinating for about 30 minutes. I'm going to move on and work on the sauce portion of this taco. So I've got a pot of water here that I'm bringing up to a boil, and to this I'm going to add in my dried chilies. It's just a bunch of different dried chilies that I've seeded. I'm going to add those in there along with some onion, garlic, tomatoes, and a couple of bay leaves, and I'm going to let this cook for about 12 to 15 minutes. Alright, so I just slid the pepper mixture to the back burner, and I'm just going to let that do its thing on the back burner. In the meantime, I'm going to sear off my beef. Now I'm doing this in a Dutch oven. If you don't have a Dutch oven, you can certainly do this in a skillet. Just transfer it to a large casserole dish with high sides. So I'm just going to sear the beef off on both sides in 2 separate batches, and then I'm just going to add that beef all back into that Dutch oven. Okay, the beef is done searing. I've got it in the Dutch oven. It's ready to go. Now I'm going to work on finishing up the sauce. So I've drained the peppers and the tomato mixture, and I put all of the tomatoes and peppers and garlic into my blender. I'm going to add the remaining of my spice mixture, some apple cider vinegar, and a little bit of beef broth, and then just blend that up until it's smooth. After that, you can restrain it and get out any bits if you want to, but I'm going to add it directly back into my Dutch oven with the beef. Now I'm just going to give it a stir, pop the lid on, bake this at 350 degrees for about 2.5 to 3 hours, just until that beef is nice and tender. It has been 3 hours and this beef is super tender. So now I'm just going to remove the beef from the pan to a plate, and I'm going to shred it up. I'm not going to add the beef back in with the sauce because we're going to use the sauce later. Okay, now it is time to cook these delicious tacos. So what I'm going to do is add a little bit of neutral oil to my pan here. And then I'm going to take a couple of these corn tortillas, dip it in that sauce, place it directly down onto the pan, and then I'm going to build my tacos. I'm going to add a little bit of cheese. You can add as much or as little as you want. I'm going to add some of that meat. Fold the tacos together. I'm going to let them cook on one side about 4 or 5 minutes. Flip them over, let them cook another 4 or 5 minutes until they're nice and crispy, and then I'm going to remove them to a plate. Alright y'all, here is my plate. These were absolutely delicious. A little time consuming, but they were well worth it. I served this restaurant style. I served it with some lettuce, salsa, sour cream, some refried beans, some lime wedges, or you can do lemon wedges, and a bowl of that delicious sauce to dip those tacos in. And you guys, this was so good. I will leave all of the links to these recipes in the description box below for you can check those out. Next up, I am making Mexican tortilla soup. This soup is so simple, but it is absolutely delicious. So what I've got going on here is I've got my blender out and I'm going to add some diced tomatoes, garlic, onion, and a little bit of a chicken broth just to help thin it out. And then I'm going to blend this up until it is completely smooth. Alright, so I've got my soup pot heating up to about medium-low heat. I'm going to add in a little bit of avocado oil and add that tomato mixture directly into the soup pot. I'm going to stir this and let this cook for about 5 minutes. After those 5 minutes are up, I'm going to come in, I'm going to add in my spices. I've got some oregano, chili powder, cumin, salt, pepper, and a little bit of red pepper flakes. Now the red pepper flakes are optional, you don't have to add those, but I love spicy, so I'm going to add some of those in. I'm going to give that a stir, let that cook down for about a minute or two, and then I'm going to come in and add in some chicken broth. I'm going to give that a stir, bring this up to a boil. When it comes to a boil, I'm going to reduce the heat down to medium-low and let this simmer for about 10 to 15 minutes. In the meantime, we're going to cook up some corn tortillas. Moving on to the corn tortillas. So I've got my large cast iron skillet here. You can do this in a non-stick skillet. I've got it over medium-low heat and I've added about 1/4 cup of avocado oil to my skillet. I've got some corn tortillas that I just cut into strips. I'm going to add those into my hot pan, give those a toss, and toss them around every few minutes and let these get nice and golden brown and crispy. I'm going to remove them to a bowl that's lined with a paper towel and let them drain. And I'm going to set those to the side because we're going to need those later. Now we're going to move on back over to the soup and we're going to finish this soup up. All we're going to do is we're going to add some lemon juice or lime juice to the soup, stir it in, adjust the seasoning, and then this is ready to serve. Alright y'all, here is my bowl of soup. All you're going to do is when you ladle this into your bowl, you're going to top this with those crispy corn tortilla strips. This is so good. It's so warm, so cozy and filling, slightly spicy. I served it with some sourdough bread on the side. This was so good. Alright, so we are going to wrap this up with some delicious vegetable gnocchi soup. This is one of the soups that I like to have when I'm not feeling well or a little bit under the weather. It's so easy, very flavorful, and it's so light and delicious. So to my pot here, I'm going to add in a little bit of olive oil. You can do any oil that you have on hand. I'm going to add some celery, some onions. If you have carrots, you can add those in there. I didn't have any on hand, but highly recommend that you add those in there, as well as some salt and pepper. I'm going to let this cook down until they are nice and tender, about 5 minutes. Now that those vegetables are tender, I'm going to go in and add in some garlic. I've got 2 cloves of garlic here that I've just got minced up. I'm going to add those in there and let those cook down for about 30 seconds, just until they are fragrant. Now that that garlic is fragrant, I'm going to go ahead and add in some more ingredients. I'm going to add in some diced tomatoes, oregano, parsley, thyme, turmeric, garlic powder, onion powder, and some chicken bone broth. Now you can use chicken broth, you can do chicken bouillon that you mix with water, or you can do some vegetable broth. Whatever you have on hand will work just fine. So I'm going to add that in there, bring this up to a boil, reduce the heat down to a simmer, and I'm going to let this cook for about 10 to 15 minutes. I've got some gnocchi here. I always have gnocchi in the pantry. It's just a little bit more convenient when I don't want to make my own, but you can certainly make homemade gnocchi if you want to, if you have the time to. So I'm just going to add that gnocchi right into the soup, and I'm going to let this cook for another 10 to 12 minutes, just until that gnocchi is completely cooked through and nice and fluffy. Once that gnocchi is completely cooked through and it's nice and fluffy, I'm going to go in and add about 2 cups of spinach. I always have spinach on hand. I keep it in the freezer. If you don't like spinach, you can do kale. Just add that in there, and I'm going to stir this in and let this cook for additional 2 to 3 minutes just to wilt that spinach or kale down. I'm going to adjust the seasoning, and then this is ready to serve. Alright y'all, here is my bowl of soup. This soup is so good. It is full of delicious, nutrient-packed vegetables, delicious light broth. I topped it with a little bit of Parmesan cheese. I had some extra sourdough to go on the side, and you guys, this was so good. And that is going to wrap up this week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm so sorry it's a short one, but I was sick last week, so I didn't get around to filming much. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.